This is huge. Meghan Markle has just lost her most powerful ally in the British mainstream media, woke ITV.
I think that our audience is especially astute to the fact that Meghan Markle and Harry threw some money at Cookie Queens, a movie that already existed and was in the can and was ready to go. And now Meghan's doing this victory lap, having her photograph taken everywhere, promoting the movie.
That Meghan is still invited to dinner parties tells me some people still at least tolerate her. So, she's at a dinner party of which true A-lister Martha Stewart is also a guest.
It's not just about Harry having security when he comes into the UK. It is about the bigger picture, that if he gets security given to him to the levels of what he is requesting, it will then make him someone who needs to be internationally protected.
For years, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have managed to keep one thing working in their favor: attention. Whether the headlines were positive, negative, sympathetic, or brutal, people were still talking about them. But now, something appears to be changing, because the criticism is no longer coming only from the usual royal commentators or openly hostile voices. It is increasingly focused on something much more damaging.
Meghan went to school with Catherine McPhee, who is David Foster's much younger wife. And they were both at school together, and they have remained friends. Both of them have married up and married well.
What exactly are Meghan and Harry building? What is the long-term plan? What is the actual product? And after years of headlines, announcements, appearances, projects, and publicity campaigns, where is the solid result? Several royal commentators have argued that the Sussexes have reached a crossroads, a point where visibility alone may no longer be enough. And for Meghan in particular, the question is becoming even sharper. Can she build a successful public identity that stands on its own, or is her entire brand still tied to the royal story she once wanted to leave behind?
For them to reveal to the details that Meghan did, she might as well have dropped a red pin in the map and confirmed that what was previously rumours that they had purchased a property in the Costa Terra Golf Resort, it was rumoured. It was never, ever confirmed. And look, that was the private beach access from inside the Costa Terra Beach Resort. So she has revealed exactly where they were staying.
Tonight, we're breaking down the criticism, the contradictions, and the growing questions surrounding Meghan and Harry's next move. And by the end, one uncomfortable question remains. What happens when the attention starts becoming easier to generate than the actual success? One of the most striking criticisms from royal commentators is surprisingly simple. Do something solid, not another glossy appearance, not another carefully photographed moment, not another announcement, not another publicity cycle. A real project, a real product, a real business. A long-term commitment that can survive without constant media attention.
They just bought their way into that film, and I'm not quite sure why. Cookie Queens, it's not ever going to take the world by storm. It's not going to be a box office smash, is it? But I suspect that it's just a way of looking like they're doing something. But as I say, these two are at some kind of crossroads. You'll find if you don't do anything in life, your life starts to unravel. I mean, also, I would suggest, I think, that Harry is extremely disturbed by his catastrophic defeat.
That criticism has become particularly pointed because Meghan and Harry entered their post-royal life with enormous advantages. They had global recognition, they had a massive audience, they had Hollywood connections, they had access to some of the biggest entertainment platforms in the world, and they had something most new entrepreneurs could only dream of: instant attention. But several commentators now argue that attention and achievement are two very different things.
Markle is now at an event for David Foster. Interesting. Wasn't that long ago, he said, September 2024. David Foster issued a statement to the press, not identified as a magazine, denying that he was a good friend to Harry and Meghan, and clarifying that he had never met their children, Archie and Lilibet. He acknowledged that Meghan and Harry consider him a close friend, but disputed the depth of their personal interaction.
If you enjoy my videos, make sure to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to see more royal news, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell. Now, let's get into the video. The criticism is that Meghan appears comfortable with the highly visible side of celebrity life. The photographs, the launches, the glamorous appearances, and the polished public moments, while the difficult, repetitive work required to build something lasting is much less visible. One royal commentator bluntly argued that the answer is to find a solid project, focus on it, and work relentlessly instead of constantly moving from one thing to another. That criticism also appears in discussions about Meghan's earlier business ambitions, where commentators point to rebranding, trademark difficulties, and changing directions as signs of a strategy that has not yet settled into one clear identity.
He always thought, if I'm a member of the royal family, I always get what I want. Of course, if I sue the Daily Mail, everybody's going to go, ooh, he's a popular member of the royal family. He's a prince. He's the king's son. He can't be wrong. That's the horrible Daily Mail, that muckraking newspaper. In his mind, I can't lose. I can't lose. He lost. He lost all 97 allegations. It was an utter humiliation. And I think he's unraveling over it. I think that those two are not having a pleasant time at the moment. She's diving into the swimming pool at 45.
And that leads directly to the bigger question, what is Meghan Markle actually selling? Because celebrity alone isn't a business model. Attention isn't a product. And being photographed isn't the same thing as building a company. When Meghan married Prince Harry, she didn't simply become famous. She became part of one of the most recognizable institutions on the planet. That gave her an extraordinary platform, but it also created a problem. Once the couple stepped away from royal duties, they had to prove that they could create something independent. And that is where the critics say the story becomes complicated.
Meghan has just basically turned around and said, "Dear paparazzi, if you would like to come find us, please do so. We will be here." Now, they did say, I didn't read it in the article, but I did see it circulating, that Meghan said, because she's given an interview at some point, but she said that the paparazzi were out in Portugal, but there were no photographs leaked. And you know, Dan, the European paparazzi run under different laws to the UK and to America. They're the ones that, you know, would happily post pictures of Catherine sunbathing topless. You know, they'll take the hit.
Because even after years in California, the Sussex brand is still heavily connected to the royal family. Harry remains a prince. The royal connection remains central to almost every major story about them. Their family relationships remain headline material. Their security disputes remain headline material. Their appearances remain headline material. And even their attempts to create an independent lifestyle continue to attract attention because of the royal identity they carry with them. Some commentators have therefore questioned whether Meghan's personal brand ever truly became independent. One especially harsh assessment in the source material argues that without Harry, Meghan's brand would be difficult to define.
They leak information about themselves which is adverse, and then they say, oh, we're such victims. Yes, there was some statement some time ago. How much reliance we should place on it is neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is, they are all, to an extent, friendly. Let's remember that actually Harry and Meghan were claiming, and I think Catherine McPhee was claiming as well.
The criticism is not necessarily that she has no public recognition. Quite the opposite. She is extremely recognizable. The question is, recognizable for what? Is she primarily an actress, an entrepreneur, a lifestyle personality, a philanthropist, a producer, a former royal, a Hollywood celebrity, or some combination of all of them? The problem with trying to be everything can be that the audience ends up understanding nothing, and that may be the branding problem Meghan now faces.
Meghan is not going to be broadcasting to, oh, you know, Harry's power. Well, actually, now that I don't have a daddy anymore. He's my pa too. And my pa couldn't have been kinder and sweeter. I mean, we kept him waiting for 27 hours. And then I fitted him in for a few minutes. And he was so grateful. He was licking the soles of my feet.
Then there is the issue that has generated some of the sharpest commentary: privacy. For years, Harry and Meghan have spoken extensively about the importance of protecting their private lives. That position has been a central part of Harry's arguments surrounding security and media intrusion. But critics say their own public strategy can sometimes create an uncomfortable contradiction. During their European travels, photographs and social media posts reportedly provided clues about locations they were visiting. Royal commentators pointed to photographs that appeared to reveal restaurants, locations in Portugal, and other identifiable details.
With the most private aspects of their trip over the summer to Europe and the United Kingdom is just impossible to defend. Intellectually, there is no argument to say you're going to continue to brief us about the need for protection, about the reason that we're not releasing pictures with the king is all because of privacy. We're so paranoid of terror attacks and security scares and the paparazzi that we're literally going to provide via our own social media and the mainstream media signposts of our exact locations.
The criticism was simple. If privacy is the priority, why voluntarily provide clues that make locations easier to identify? One discussion in the supplied material even described the situation as almost invading their own privacy. The broader argument was that the couple's public messaging and their social media strategy appeared difficult to reconcile. Now, to be fair, posting a photograph does not automatically mean someone wants paparazzi attention, and nobody outside the couple can know their private intentions. But perception is a different matter. And in celebrity culture, perception can become reality very quickly.
And they didn't reveal any photographs taken of Meghan or the children in Portugal. So I don't believe that they were bothered at all, but they need to be bothered. Harry needs them to be bothered. Harry needs a magazine to do an exclusive to show pictures taken by the paparazzi so he can sue, so he can use it to buffer up his security situation. Meghan wants it because she wants the money.
That's why the criticism matters. Because if Harry argues that security threats are serious, while Meghan's public-facing content appears to reveal where they have been, commentators are naturally going to ask, are these two strategies working against each other? And this is where their entire public image becomes complicated. They want privacy, but they also need visibility. They dislike intrusive media attention, but media attention keeps their brand alive. They want control over their story, but controversy keeps generating the biggest headlines. That is an impossible balancing act.
Exactly. They both need
benefit
the paparazzi. They both need the paparazzi, because without the paparazzi, how on earth can Harry make the argument, oh, well, we desperately need the security? And then privately, how on earth can Meghan make the argument to Harry, oh, look, H, it's not our fault. It's not our fault that the hapless, horrible paparazzi have shared the photographs of the kids' faces. So, like, of course I'm going to have to. Of course I'm going to have to. Because the paparazzi have already done it.
Perhaps the most interesting part of this story isn't the criticism from people who have always disliked Meghan and Harry. It's the criticism from voices who were once considered more sympathetic. The material includes discussion of ITV personalities questioning whether the couple were effectively revealing too much about their own travels. That matters because public perception changes dramatically when criticism appears outside the traditional opposition camp. If only outspoken critics are attacking you, you can dismiss them as biased.
It is begging. That's exactly what they're doing. She might as well walk around with a big billboard above their heads saying, this is where we are. Come find us, fellas. We'll be here. This is the beach. This is where we will be. Please bring your cameras. Please bring your, what are those little things called that fly around?
Drones, the drones.
Drones, bring the drones. Bring the drones. Bring on the clowns.
But when broadcasters, commentators, columnists, or previously sympathetic figures start asking uncomfortable questions, the narrative becomes harder to control. And that is exactly why the privacy debate has attracted so much attention. It isn't simply about one photograph, it is about credibility. Can the Sussexes convince the public that privacy is an absolute principle? Or does privacy sometimes become a strategic argument that is emphasized when it benefits them? That's the question critics are asking. And whether that criticism is fair or not, it is now part of the public conversation.
The Daily Mail's major court case win. The Mail is now turning all of its star columnists back against Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and piling pressure on King Charles, which personally I absolutely believe needs to happen. So this is what Amanda Patel said, Tash, and I'll get you to react. She wrote, just weeks after King Charles was reunited with his Californian grandchildren Archie and Lillian Highgrove for the first time in 4 years, Prince Harry is now planning to extend an olive branch to his father with an invitation to join him at the Invictus Games in 2027.
There is another criticism buried beneath all of this, and it may be the most important one. Meghan may not simply have a Harry problem, she may have a brand definition problem. The source material repeatedly returns to the idea that the couple's greatest strength is also their greatest weakness. They are fascinating. People want to know what they are doing, they want to know where they are going, they want to know what project is coming next. They want to know what is happening with the royal family. They want to know what Harry thinks. They want to know what Meghan thinks. They want to know whether the couple are succeeding in Hollywood, and that curiosity generates enormous attention. But attention is not necessarily admiration, and attention is certainly not necessarily commercial success.
Well, you mentioned, Harry, the relationship between the Sussexes has always been central to their public identity. You know, they call it the claw on social media, how at Invictus, the claw comes out and Meghan's got her hands and arms around her husband. 6 years after stepping away from royal duties, do you think Meghan's personal brand has become stronger, or is it still dependent on her husband?
Oh, without Harry, she's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not sure what her brand is. It's certainly not making her much money, as I say.
One commentator made this distinction very clearly. People can be fascinated by a story without necessarily liking the people involved. That may explain the Sussex phenomenon better than almost anything else. They remain newsworthy, but the bigger question is whether they remain aspirational. This brings us to Hollywood. When Harry and Meghan moved to California, expectations were enormous. They were supposed to become major entertainment players. The couple had access to Netflix, they had a major Spotify relationship, they had podcast opportunities. They had the royal story itself as an almost unlimited source of material.
Her brand is, you know, she's become this very famous person because people are intrigued by her. She's a car crash. But I'm not sure what her brand is, but know this, without Harry, she's nothing. She hates this. She thinks she's the main attraction in the relationship, but of course she's not. As we just discussed, she's just some Hollywood wannabe who married a prince. The prince is the main attraction. The prince is the story. So without Harry, brand Meghan is nothing. I think deep down she probably knows that, but she sure as hell doesn't like it.
But critics now point to the projects and partnerships that have ended, changed, or failed to become the kind of long-term entertainment empire many expected. And that has created a very uncomfortable comparison. Other celebrities disappear for years and return with a blockbuster. Other entrepreneurs disappear from public view and spend years building companies. Other producers work behind the scenes until the finished product speaks for itself. But the Sussexes often seem to operate in the opposite direction. The publicity arrives first. The substance is then debated afterward. That perception may be unfair, but it is powerful.
According to royal insiders, the exiled prince is said to be hopeful that his father will accept. But here's my warning for King Charles. To do so would be a grave mistake indeed, and a decision that your loyal subjects may never forgive. One source added, Harry would love the king's support. I bet he would, this is Platel. But the brutal truth is that the British public would be simply appalled. It would feel like a betrayal for the millions of loyal monarchists like me who stood by the king, while Harry and Meghan made millions trashing not just our king and queen, but William and Kate and the very institution of the British monarchy. The Invictus invitation is not an olive branch. For Harry to dress it up as such is a cynical ploy for his own gain.
And it explains why commentators keep returning to the same piece of advice. Stop chasing the moment. Build something that lasts. There is an even deeper problem here. What happens when controversy itself becomes part of the business model? Because controversy guarantees attention. A royal dispute generates clicks. A security controversy generates headlines. A family disagreement generates discussion. A new photograph generates speculation. A new product announcement generates reaction. A criticism generates another response. And then that response creates another round of coverage. It becomes a cycle. And Meghan in particular has been accused by critics of becoming trapped inside that cycle.
Let's just be honest. The fundamentals of this story, Tash, have never changed. Okay? So the flip-flopping is weird. At the same time, the line that really got me in this column, because I maybe hadn't looked at it this way before, Tash, but I think she's completely right, is to say, hey, Charles, hey, King, we were there for you, mate. You know, we stood by you. At the time when Harry and Meghan were trying to say, you're a racist, Catherine is a racist, we stood by you. And we didn't give in to the hysteria. And I'm not talking about us in the media, Tash, or you even in the independent media space. I'm talking about us as subjects of the king.
Yeah.
We stood by you. And what? You're now going to sell us down the water. It just really struck me, that line, because I hadn't really thought about it in that way.
The irony is obvious. The more she tries to control the narrative, the more people discuss the narrative. The more she tries to correct a story, the more attention the story receives. The more controversial the response becomes, the larger the story becomes. One commentator in the supplied material described this as a kind of boomerang effect. The argument being that attempts to fight negative coverage can sometimes generate even more attention around it. Again, that's an opinion, not an established fact, but it explains why the strategy is being scrutinized. And Harry cannot be separated from this discussion. His biggest public battles have increasingly revolved around security, privacy, and his relationship with the British establishment. Commentators have argued that his legal and security campaigns have become central parts of his public identity.
If Meghan called you tomorrow and genuinely asked for one piece of advice as she enters,
I'm expecting that call, by the way.
yeah, of course. She asked me for your number. In the next chapter of her career, what would you tell her? What would your advice be?
Well, I think I just said it. Do something solid.
No, that's true. You did say that.
Yeah. So that just find something.
I think what I wanted you to say was go the hell away. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, personally, I wouldn't mind that. But you know what? The thing is about Meghan is when I talked about how people are compelled by her story because it's such a car crash, and Harry.
But there is a danger in that. If every major appearance becomes connected to a dispute with Britain, the royal family, the press, or security arrangements, then Harry risks becoming defined by conflict rather than by achievement. And that brings the couple back to the same crossroads. What are they actually building? Because a brand cannot survive forever on the argument that everyone else is the problem. At some point, the audience wants to see the finished product, the successful business, the great documentary, the groundbreaking project, the lasting institution, the work. And that is precisely what several royal commentators say Meghan and Harry need to deliver. The real test for Meghan may therefore be much simpler than another headline. Can she build something without the royal family being part of the story? Can she create something that succeeds without Harry being the headline? Can she launch a project that people discuss because the project itself is excellent? Can she stay focused long enough to build something substantial? And most importantly, can she let the work speak louder than the publicity? Because if the answer is yes, then the next chapter could look completely different.
I think he was a DEI hire that checked all the woke boxes. There's a saying in journalism that some stories are too good to fact check. I love it. It looks like Cambridge took the same approach to his resume and bona fides. actually, I came across him. I can't remember when, but I met him at something. Must have been something West Indian or black.
But if the cycle continues, announcement, publicity, controversy, response, rebranding, another announcement, then critics will keep asking the same question. Where is the substance? This is why the criticism surrounding Meghan and Harry is becoming more interesting. It isn't simply, people don't like them. That's too easy. The bigger argument is that their public strategy may have reached its limits. The royal connection still generates enormous attention, but they left royal life to build something different. They wanted independence. They wanted control. They wanted Hollywood. They wanted business. They wanted privacy. And yet, according to their critics, many of their biggest headlines still come from the exact world they were trying to move beyond. That is the contradiction, and Meghan sits at the center of it. Because she has visibility, she has recognition, she has access, she has an audience. What critics question is whether she has yet found the one thing that could turn all of that attention into a durable, independent legacy, a solid project, a clear identity, and years of consistent work behind it. That may be the real challenge ahead. Not another headline, not another photo, not another royal controversy, work. Because eventually, the spotlight moves, the headlines fade, the cameras leave, and when the noise disappears, all that remains is what you actually built. So what do you think? Has Meghan Markle genuinely built an independent brand since leaving royal life? Or is the royal connection still the biggest reason people remain interested in her and Harry? And when it comes to their future, do you agree with the royal commentators who say they need to stop chasing publicity and start building something substantial? Let me know your opinion in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because we have more royal and Hollywood stories coming your way. And if you want to see what may be happening behind the Sussexes' carefully managed public image, click the video on screen right now. That next story may give you an even clearer picture of why Meghan and Harry are facing one of their most difficult public crossroads yet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If you're enjoying the royal news on this channel, hit that like button and let me know your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story.